So, my parents taught me to be humble. So, I think it's decent to ask the question, will the results from Swelogs change the world? And I'll try to at least lead a bit forward on that issue in a moment. So, this is a Swelogs is a national gambling study in this small Nordic country on the other side of the globe. And in fact, since this is a Swedish session, I would like to start with a song that was found by my husband when we were still dating. As you know, people don't write songs, they are out there. They're supposed to be found by someone. And this song, actually, he found a couple of kilometers where I used to live. But then he forgot it. So he had to come back, and he found it again. And it goes like this. Ginge jag i dystra tankar, kunde ej, vill ej se dig då. När jag nu så sorgsen vankar, vill jag till dig gå. Men om du då alla redan ut ur huset gången var, borde jag för länge sedan giver dig mitt svar. O ja, evighet, jag vill älska evighet. Hylla dig, fylla dig, ära dig, bli nära dig. Tro mig, jag försäkrar det. Tro mig, jag försäkrar det. Vänta ej till nästa dag innan du gör slag i saken. Livet har du blott ett tag. Njut av dess behag. Ja, njut av dess behag. So, that's how we do it in Sweden. Yeah. So, but I mean, being a statistician, it means I'm a person of different traits. Yeah. But Swelogs has been going on, as Jessica told you, since 2008. I will concentrate on the epidemiological track with 4 waves of data collection between 2008 and 2014. And the study is financed through, and as for this, the epidemiological track, it's made at the Public Agency of Sweden. And data collection is made through Statistics Sweden. And we use telephone interviews as primary data collection mode. We send out postal questionnaires as reminders to those not reached. And since we do have personal identification numbers in Sweden, we can also link interview information to register data, which means that we could shorten the surveys. We didn't have to ask about social demographic background and stuff like that. We can add that on. Since we tell people we will do it, we can also add on a lot of information later on through our registers. Conducting such a grand study could not have been done without a little help from our friends, namely the Swelogs Advisory Board, among whom at least Max Abbott is present in the room. We also have Rachel Wahlberg, who presented here earlier today. These are the international component of our advisory board. We also have a few Swedish researchers, Per Binde, Jakob Jonsson, Anders Tengström, and we also have Anders Stymne, the former project manager, who used to be responsible for gambling prevention at the Swedish National Institute of Public Health. And therefore, we have been able to do a grand study like this, having this advisory board also along with us. Our results have been presented a lot in Swedish, of course. So we have written several reports. There have been 2 doctoral theses with the material, one on gambling and gender by Jessica, another on youth and gambling, written by Frida Fröberg. We have fact sheets, 20 of them, which are also in English. And the 2 first reports up here, the prevalence report and the incidence reports, have been translated into English. and they have been close to be published for quite a long time, but now it's closer. So as we're speaking, they might be uploaded. So within a couple of weeks at least, they can be downloaded from our website. So then our results will be more reachable for those not speaking Swedish, which are not so many in the world. We know that. The gambling market in Sweden is largely the regulated actors. We have the large Svenska Spel, which is owned by the government, handling lotteries and the state-owned casinos and largely that type of gambling. Gambling machines are also owned by Svenska Spel. We have Aktiebolaget Trav och Galopp, ATG, which do horse racing and gambling on horses. And we have different national and local lotteries organized by associations. Then we have the unregulated actors, which are causing us some problems, namely the online gambling companies, which without permit to conduct business in Sweden do operate there, and they are growing in number. And we also identify illegal gambling. In our survey, we have asked about gambling machines that do not belong to Svenska Spel, which really are illegal, and we have also included commercial poker tournaments for profit, because that's only legal at the state-owned casinos. So that's the smaller part is the illegal gambling, we think. We don't, but given on how many that gamble there, it's the smallest part. I got a bit sad this morning when I heard Rosa's presentation, because I should have recounted this into to inflation, take the inflation away in the numbers. But as you see, from 2000, the gambling expenditures, the gross total here, the legal market has increased. It's sort of plateaued here. We started Swelogs here, 2008, and this has not. The increase has not continued since then. If we look at the net market, we could also compare to the right here. We can also compare with the unregulated online operators. And you see, they are the red ones here. So from 2003 and onwards, it's been really a large increase of online gambling with unregulated operators. So that's the situation in Sweden right now. So that's the landscape where we have conducted Swelogs. So we started off with a national sample of 15,000. We lost close to 7,000 of them in the beginning, but we continue with the 8,165 reached in wave 1. We then continue with 3 more waves, and you can see how people might have been lost here. A few of them were later retrieved in later waves. But all in all, we have 2,847 persons that actually participated in all waves, and these are precious. But we also have people moving in and out of the study. So what happened? If we look at past year participation, so the sample, they were 16 to 84, age 16 to 84 when we started. And 6 years later, they are 6 years older, of course. Gambling has reduced in all types of gambling, with 2 exceptions. For men, you see, it's not much of a change for number games. It's the same. But online gambling doubled during the period. And bingo increased a bit. And it's similar for women. Except here is the lottery gambling, lottery participation, that is unchanged, but online gambling is at least double, maybe more than that, and bingo is a slight increase. So what about online gambling? Where did it increase? Well, in almost any form, except one. I actually challenged Sylvia Carew at lunch, said, which gambling form do you think did not increase online? And it's poker. So 2008, we have had our poker boom. It was slightly reducing at the time, and it has continued so far. But in all other types of games, the online participation has increased. And in some forms, from a very small number into, well, quite a few percent. But more for men in most forms. But then we have bingo. There's something about bingo that sort of interested me then. Because bingo, we have almost equal amounts of men and women gambling on bingo. In fact, totally a slightly higher proportion of women gamble on bingo than men. So I digged into the bingo a bit. I wanted to know more about it. And first I wanted to know, so what types of bingo games did increase between our first and fourth wave? Well, you see, we have the blue bars are EP1, the yellow ones are EP4. And there are increases in land-based bingo as well as online bingo. And in particular, here is something new, bingo with unregulated actors. It was not even measurable in EP1, but in EP4 it was. So we had an increase there. Small numbers, but still an increase. I also looked at persistence in bingo playing, in bingo gambling, and realized that men and women, if we compare those that play bingo in EP1, there's a higher proportion of women lasting playing bingo. There are small numbers, but I think it's fairly sensible to at least say this is what it looks like. But among the new bingo players, they are 4% of the population among men as among women. So new bingo players are equally men and women. So this might change the bingo business for quite over the years, I guess. I also wanted to compare those new bingo players with the more persistent ones, which are dead, and the green ones are the new ones, and they are more likely to gamble online. The red ones, the continued bingo players, they are more likely to gamble on land-based bingo. And most of the bingo players just stick to one form. So only 10% play bingo in more than one form. Now, I was really surprised when we got the new data from EP1, that so many young men gamble on bingo. But many of them do gamble online then. So going to a bingo hall seems still to be a more female way of gambling then. So bingo is probably fairly typical of what seems to be going on in Sweden, in the Swedish gambling market. We have a shift between land-based and online gambling. Back in 2010, the online gambling was 28% of the market, is now 39%, measured as money spent in the business. So, we don't know where we're heading. This will probably go on. So that's a bit of what happened in regards to gambling between wave 1 and wave 4 in our study. I will now continue and speak a bit about problem gambling also, what happened. So as Jessica told you, we have basically used PGSI 3+ as problem gambling measure as a cutoff, which means moderate risk and gambling problems. We had a prevalence rate of 2.1% back in 2008-2009, and we had an incidence rate of 1.4%. And actually it was a fourth of the old problem gamblers that stayed on. So, what happened? Well, the white columns here are prevalence rates at each wave. So we go from 2.2% approximately of problem gamblers here over EP2, EP3, and finally we are down to a fairly much lower rate here, slightly about 1%. Is this because we have an aging sample, for instance? I therefore also computed only the numbers for those aged 22 and above in EP1, so to be comparable. And even when doing this, we seem to have a slight reduction in problem gambling, at least for adults then. But then we don't know what's happening in the younger ages. But I'll come back to that. So what we see, we have a decrease in participation in gambling. We're going from, well, we had 29% non-gamblers in EP1. We have around 33% in EP3. So the participation is reducing. And no problem gamblers are about the same amount. It's not dramatic changes. If we look at our data, different data points as different prevalence studies. But if we also consider the longitudinal information we can get out of this, then if we accumulate who has been a problem gambler from time 1 to time 4, so we start off with a prevalence rate of 2.2% in EP1, but then people add on. They might become problem gamblers, moving out and back again, but in the end of our study, 4.5% had at least one time been a problem gambler. So this is really new and important information that we can gain from our longitudinal studies. As Max said yesterday in his presentation, that it seems to be a fairly large number of people transitioning into and out of gambling problems. And this is really what one effect of this. Because what you have in the second row here is people that had gambling problems before, sometimes previously in their lifetime. How many of them had, in the end, had gambling problems? Well, almost half of them. So the relapse seems to be quite substantial in Swelogs as well. So we are now trying to continue analyzing our data, and we have, to help to understand, we also have launched a new prevalence study. The data collection is going on, the telephone interviews, we have basically the same way of collecting data. The telephone interviews ended around New Year, but we are still waiting for postal questionnaires. But we hope to get at least preliminary results by June sometime. And also, we're doing something really interesting with our old Swelogs cohort. We have taken out a sample of people who seem to have moved up or down in problem gambling over this 6-year period. And we have commissioned Stockholm University to do qualitative interviews with those people. There will be somewhere around 40 interviews made, and it's done not as I speak, and they're sleeping back in Sweden now, but the interviews are going on. So we are really eager to get these results. So, to the question, the crucial, will the results from Swelogs change the world? Well, we know the world is changing, and I do believe that results from Sweden certainly can help to better understand what's going on. A lot of what's going on in Sweden is probably going on around the world. What we have learned is that gambling problems are larger than the common 2% prevalence. It's really crucial to be aware of that, I think. And relapse is a more serious problem that than at least we knew for certain before. And in fact, our data from a national sample combined with registry information is a really rich well of information. So maybe we won't change the world, but I think we can dig out quite a bit from this well of information. So keep in touch.
All right, we've got plenty of time for questions. Are there any?
I was puzzled to see the term problem gambler defined as a score of 3 or plus. Is that because if you define it as 8 plus, you get extremely?
A combination, I would say. We do get small numbers, even though we oversampled people that were expected to have gambling problems and got quite a few. We have still small numbers. Yeah, but yeah, but the real reason to do it actually is that still, if you have 3 plus, you are probably already having negative consequences. And since we have the public health perspective, we are eager to get not just a serious gambling problem affected person, but we also want to grasp the problem, because probably 3 plus people also would need at least some guidance to reduce their gambling.
We don't do that. The problem is you're defining it as 3 plus, and then every time you talked about it, I think gambling is a deeply serious problem. I think the surveys are flawed. That's my concern. That every time you actually refer to that, it's moderate risk plus problem gambling.
Yeah. No, no, no. But what we probably will do when we reanalyze the longitudinal data set, we probably use the cutoff of 5, which is more and more used now. So 1 to 4 will be at risk, 5 plus will be the new cutoff, which I think is more probably decent to do, but we're still struggling. But it's not, no, we are not trying to mix the numbers. And we also have tried to compare the gambling problem group, the 8 plus, with the 3 to 7. And they are more similar than the 1 to 2 is with them. The 1 to 2 are more similar to the non-gamblers and the gamblers without problems. It's not, I don't think it's unfair to do it, but, and we really try to tell what we are doing, that we're actually combining the moderate risk and problem gamblers. Yeah.
Is your raw data available?
Sorry?
Is your raw data not the registry?
Tricky question, and it's even more tricky than the Victorian data. It's probably not available from abroad because it's stored in Statistics Sweden's database. We hope to make it available later on, but right now it's not.
Okay, any more?
How you, one of those first slides again, how you estimate the net turnover of the uncontrolled online gambling? There was a huge increase, but how you estimate that?
I really don't know. It's vad heter Lotteriinspektionen? The Gaming Commission, Gaming Authority, they do calculate it. Exactly. I'm not sure, because several of these companies are also in the Swedish stock market. So I think they might estimate it from their balances. So I think it's a fairly good estimate. Yeah. Yeah.
Does this mean that Swedish population is getting old, or does it mean that there are more old people gambling?
No.
What is your
No. I really, I mean, We all have our prejudices. I assumed bingo was a game for elderly ladies, but it's seemingly not. Quite a few young people also gamble on bingo, so bingo is not dead. Mm. Yeah. And I just wanted to tell you that we do have some information in English on our website, but I forgot to include it in my presentation, but you see it up here. So folkhälsomyndigheten.se. And then you can search for Swelogs and find at least our fact sheets, and in a couple of weeks our report on prevalence and incidence. You don't have a microphone, Jessica.
All right, any more questions?
When it was made about lumping the groups together, I mean, commonly done to get the from memory in the reports, it does actually but I agree using the term probably in the
Yeah.
understand the registry data. I work with it all the time.
Mm.
And I've got a Swedish citizen, but my point is the public data. You always create a public master file. That's standardly done.
Yeah, logically, yes, but in Sweden we also have our data inspection, and they are really strong about how data is handled. So this is regarded as privileged information, and is not supposed to be handled as well. Our fears is that we may not be able to store the data for more than a couple of years. So, I mean, that's a big, even a larger problem than being able to also share with the research community all over the world. So, but we are really trying also to at least make the interview data, the register data won't be, but I mean, I also think this type of events are so useful to get together, because then we also can be able to merge our data set, compare data, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, we are now heading with a couple of really grand studies, and we will continue the cooperation. And in a couple of years, we will know at least a bit more.
Okay, any more questions? Last chance. All right, well, can we thank our speakers again?